So, there's a rumor going around that the next Nintendo Direct may not be coming as soon as many had hoped. Definitely not as soon as I had hoped. I believe this started in a VentureBeat article, and then there was also like Eurogamer, I know, did an article corroborating it, where these journalists are saying they are hearing from publishers that Nintendo had originally planned to have a big Direct in June, which is what I think most expected, but due to the COVID problems, they are looking to pushing it back to perhaps late summer, maybe even into September, which, if it goes into September, we could be looking at an entire year between major Directs, as the previous Direct was a Direct Mini, and the last mainline Nintendo Direct was held in September of 2019. That would really suck. So that's what I want to talk about today. First off, this news really couldn't come at a worse time, as yes, COVID is still a huge problem, has surely screwed up a lot of development in games, okay? Like, I'm not all of a sudden blind to this. But here's the thing. We seem to already be entering this pseudo sort of E3 season that many of us predicted when this all started. While even though the big E3 event is canceled, game studios are still going and doing their own reveals on their own time, and since we don't have those strict dates, people can kind of spread stuff out. The new Assassin's Creed game Valhalla was just revealed yesterday at the time of this recording. Xbox has announced, finally, Jesus, after jerking me around with all of these trash events, we're finally getting Xbox Series X gameplay reveals next week during a new episode of Inside Xbox. There are also rumors that the PS5 reveal is going to come in the next few weeks. I'm sure with Xbox announcing this Series X event, Sony's going to want to swoop in and try to pull that rug out from under them. And I'm pretty sure this is going to continue now for a while. A bunch more studios and their big AAA games are going to be getting shown off on their own time, and it's looking like this is still going to be a pretty big holiday in terms of releases for most companies, possibly except for Nintendo. And in this rumor, or the people leaking this stuff, are saying specifically that Nintendo, when they're pushing this thing back, they're saying that they themselves need more time for their games. It's not like other publishers and developers are pushing them to push it back. Once more, yes, pretty much everyone has been affected by this COVID stuff, but many development studios and publishers still seem to be going forward at a steady pace, and we're not talking about like one small development studio with Nintendo, like they have one game they're working on. We are talking about a company that has an entire platform of their own to support, and yeah, I don't think it would look very good if everyone else seems like they've got all this stuff coming out, and Nintendo is just sitting there like, well, you know, with the COVID, we just couldn't get any games out. In the VentureBeat article, I know they talked a bit about specifically the work culture in Japan and how I guess they were less prepared to transition to like a work from home environment and that. So it makes sense that Nintendo's first party games that are being developed over there are going to take a bigger hit. And here's where I'm probably going to take a bit of heat from this video. If this is all true that we're not getting news for a long time and things are even delayed more for Nintendo than everyone else, I think this kind of exploits an issue with Nintendo that people do harp on a lot, which is their systems are too reliant on their first-party games. And they definitely have the weakest third-party support of all the platforms. And so as a result, they can't really rely much on third parties to help get them through a drought like this. Like if this was an Xbox or a PlayStation, and they were saying that, oh, you know, our studios just happen to get hit worse by the COVID than others, at least they have all these third parties to fall back on. If Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for instance, like I said, game was just announced, if that game was coming to the Switch, well, that would be a game we know is on the horizon soon, even if Nintendo is having all these development struggles. Like, you can hate me for saying it, but if this is true, it is partially a byproduct of them going their own way, being different and all that. We're seeing the competition still looks to be full steam ahead, and even if they were saying their first-party studios got totally screwed by this, they'd still have the third-party stuff to fall back on. I think you can still say it's a worthy trade-off, getting, you know, the different things that Nintendo puts out. They don't have to compete as directly with PlayStation and Xbox as the two have to do with each other. I'm not trying to downplay any of those positives of this, but if it looks like this COVID situation is affecting their release lineup more than their competitors, I don't think it's unfair to ask why. That's all I'm saying. And I would probably argue that's the reason. They don't have as much support from all these companies all over, so it's like if their first party stuff goes down, they don't really have much to show. And you know, I also like to talk about the mass public perception from like the casuals, people who don't follow all this news very closely. Like, we can look into these things, kind of find out more why things are happening the way they are, but your standard consumer is just going to see this like, hey, all these games are getting announced now for these big shiny new systems, and the Switch is over here with no idea of when the next game is coming, even what the next big game release is. And I think that could be a big issue for them as we go through this year. If you watched my video before about the Switch in 2020, I was talking about how they actually started 2020 in a really good position with Animal Crossing. The demand for the Switch is through the roof right now with everyone locked up and at home, but part of what they're benefiting from is people waiting on learning about these new systems. News that is coming incredibly soon. Most aren't going to go out and buy a PS4 when the PS5 is set to come out in probably around 7 months now. And if Sony and Microsoft do start doing these reveals and have some kick-ass looking games coming alongside these new systems, and again, we look at Nintendo and there's next to nothing coming soon, I don't see that going over so well. So I'm a bit concerned, especially waiting that long. Like, if this doesn't come till late summer, again, fingers crossed, not until September, but that would make me worried that whatever they are going to announce isn't even coming until like 2021. Like, I doubt they would do a gameplay reveal of Breath of the Wild 2 a mere 2 or 3 months before the game releases. The big games like that and Prime 4, I assume they'd want to be able to pump up for a good while before they actually release. And that's just really a long time to wait with nothing to really look forward to. But even if they don't have a direct per se for a long time, they could do some stuff to still ease the pain. For example, the rumored Mario remakes and remasters that are supposedly coming. Sadly, this is probably the most corroborated possible announcement we've got so far, as several news sites have stated they have insiders confirming it to be true, but we've really got nothing on anything else. And I like this idea even more now. The longer we go without big game news, I like this idea even more in terms of an easy way to pad out the amount of Switch releases for the year, as at least like if they did the Galaxy games, right? I don't think those titles need much work to have a sick HD release. But yeah, I could see those games getting their own sort of video presentation, maybe not even technically a direct at all, but doing something showing them off and going into a little bit of detail about how the games have been changed and improved for these new releases. Mario always kills it sales-wise too, like Mario can do no wrong, so I think a little crop of Mario games could do a tremendous job boosting the amount of total software sales for the year. And also, like, if there are multiple Mario remasters in the pipe, maybe some are further along than others, or even done. Like, maybe they were planning to release Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 HD together, bundled together, and maybe right now 2 still has a bit of a ways to go, but 1 is done. I think it would really be beneficial to them to just put 1 out on its own to give people something to play. Also, I do hope we have some third-party stuff still to come. We did get those announcements. We have those ports on the way, like the 2K games, Catherine in that were announced in the last Direct. We could see more of that. Keep in mind, with it sounding like we're going to get a lot of announcements in the coming weeks, we could see multi-platform stuff announced for the Switch. I wouldn't bet on many big third-party games coming over right now with everyone eyeing the next-gen platforms, but it's very possible if we start seeing a bunch of reveals left and right in the next few weeks that some of that stuff could be coming to the Switch. That would definitely help things. Speaking of which, like, where is Doom Eternal? That would actually be really nice to get an update on the Switch release of that game right about now. Hopefully that still comes out this year. That's one I would definitely consider a big release in my opinion. And also, even though I know people want 2020 games, it's not like developers can't show us some stuff that is a little bit farther away. I still think we need some more big games to close this year out. Definitely something for holiday, don't get me wrong. But again, like I said in that previous video I did talking about the Nintendo 2020, there are plenty of games that we know have been in production for a long while that they could at least give us some updates on. Even if, say, a Bayonetta 3 still isn't coming until 2021. I think it'd be cool to get something on it at this point to get people more excited about it. This is a title that has been in development for several years now. It's not like they possibly couldn't have some stuff to show us by now. And while stuff like that would be farther off, it would give people something to look forward to, which I think is a big part of the issue for a lot of Nintendo fans right now. It's not just that we don't know what's coming, it's that we don't have a lot to be excited about. Like, right now we've got Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, which looks amazing, but it's a JRPG, so it is a bit more niche. But more importantly, I think that game is coming this month. After that, it's looking pretty bare bones in terms of major releases on the Switch. At this point, I would definitely take some new trailers, even for games that have 2021 release dates, just to have something to get excited about. So all in all, I think if we're not going to get a Direct for another 4 months or so, that's going to be a really rough wait. Hopefully this just isn't true. Maybe they'll announce the next Direct tomorrow, and you can just all come back and tell me how well this video has aged. I'd actually love that. And while I think COVID affecting things is a good reason, I think you just have to, again, look at the perception that people are going to have with all this big next-gen news dropping and nothing coming from the Nintendo Switch camp. You can say you're excusing the issue yourself, that you understand it and it doesn't bother you, but it's not like you can do anything to fix that public perception. What the general population is going to think, again, when they see all these big new game releases with these shiny new systems, and then the Switch just sitting here like, I don't know, maybe a new game is coming someday. Also, finally, if we are going to be waiting a long time for the next Direct, or at least some big game news, hopefully they can do some smaller things, like I mentioned, to make that wait less awful. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on perhaps waiting till the end of summer or even longer for the next Direct in the comments. How disappointed would you be? And what do you think the Big N could do if this is true to maybe alleviate the wait for people a bit? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of the next Nintendo Direct, possibly not coming for quite a while. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter at JohnnyZakari, and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends, linked to both in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.